Have you ever met someone that made you think, this person may very well be evil? This is a bad person. Well, I have. And that's what sparked my search for the truth and my spiritual journey. If you're new here, my name is Lokanath Das, and I make videos about my spiritual journey. I also drive a lot. But my aim is to help you on your spiritual journey. In the link in the description, you can book a free consultation with me. Enjoy the video. When I was about 18 years old, so around 31 years ago, my mother had a boyfriend, and in her infinite wisdom, she invited him to stay with us. It was my 4 younger brothers, aging from 7 to 10, myself and my mother, and this guy who was emotionally abusive to her. It's a bit difficult to actually put it into words why I thought he was evil, but I'll try. I would hear her just crying when they were having a conversation. And he had this sort of very dodgy energy about him. He had this very he was very, very insecure. Just kind of like unstable energy about him, you know. He would like threaten her. He had this story. He told us that he killed his ex-girlfriend because he found her cheating, and he went to jail, and he's just come out of jail, and like he kept trying to sort of instill fear through those things. I don't know if any of that was true, but it was very unnerving, and it made me fear for my mother's life, and I know she was also scared. And then he had he had a black book that he would read, kind of like plain black book, and he had a big crystal, and at one point he asked me, should I break this crystal? And the crystal kind of represented our family or something. Anyway, he broke the crystal, and it was supposed to symbolize breaking up the family. He was doing all kinds of weird stuff, and he spoke about spells, and that he knew how to cast spells. And the one time I remember we were driving in the car together, and he did some funny like hand signals towards the security guys that were, in South Africa there's security companies everywhere, and we also had some kind of security button at home, and these people were parked at the beginning of the area that we lived in, and he made these kind of weird hand signals towards them, like he was casting a spell or something to like keep them at bay in case something happened, because he was talking about all this nonsense about killing his ex-girlfriend. And so all these things just made you feel very uneasy with the guy. And I think, so he wanted to like create this fear as well in us. I don't know if he wanted to, it was like a power play because of his own insecurities or something. But it made me think, if there is such a thing as actually a bad person, like there's some, inherent, he's just like bad, like he's evil or something, then there must be, and I was convinced there's just something wrong with this guy. He's got really ill intentions. And so if that's the case, if there's such a thing as bad, then there must be such a thing as good, like inherently good, or like divine or something. And up till that point, I'd never actually considered these topics. Whenever kind of God or eternality came up in our peer group, then my friends and I would always just say, look, we don't understand this stuff. You can't understand eternality. Just don't dwell on it. Just let it go. So we never dealt with it. But when this person came into my life and into my home, I wanted to look into it. So I dug up this old like pocket edition of a German Bible that I had from Christian camp from years before. And I started reading it with the purpose of just trying to find out, is there something to it? And I told myself, if I read this and it doesn't make sense, I'm going to stop. Like, I wasn't a fan. I wasn't like a religious person, really. I thought, okay, I'm going to read the Bible. I'm going to try and see if there's some truth to it. And I had to read between the lines a bit. There's a lot of sort of parables, and the way that it's written is, is always like a story and so forth. So I read it between the lines a bit, but to my surprise and to my joy, it did make sense. And I started saying the Lord's Prayer, which I somehow remembered from school, and I started reading the Bible regularly. One interesting thing that happened when I was saying the Lord's Prayer, when it comes to the part about give us this day our daily bread, I somehow thought of the bread being knowledge. That let me understand you, O Lord. I would think like that. Because it just seems silly to pray for bread. I had bread, so I felt like I need the knowledge of God, understanding God, was nourishment for my deeper need. And it gave me like solace. It really gave me a sense that I was connecting with a higher positive energy. And it gave me that sort of shelter that I was looking for. And it carried on a bit for a while. This guy was there, he was there, and it carried on. And at some point, enough was enough. I'd also said enough is enough, this guy needs to go. And my mother asked him to leave. And before he left, he cut his hair and splayed it around the house. It was very freaky stuff, but eventually he left. But that was the start of my journey. It was based on fear and sort of desperation, looking for something in the Bible. And that was the start of my spiritual journey. And it's come a long way since then, but that's a topic for the next video. If you are interested in learning more about spiritual awakening, then watch the next video.